Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Da 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 da. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Hubba bubba bubba. Bubba 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 bubba. Do 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 do. Hi, everybody. Today I'm doing a little bit different kind of a show here today. Today is I'm doing something about my website. Okay, if you don't know, my website is dcrtv.com. That's what I've been doing for the last 21 years. 21st anniversary this September. 21 years. dcrtv.com, and so I'm going to be doing a little chat today. Dave almost every day. DAED about media stuff, okay? So all you regular followers of me on my Camo Dave channel, you might enjoy this. I don't know. We're going to talk about some YouTube-y stuff. This was interesting. This was in today's Washington Post or New York Times. The internet trolls have won. Get used to it, okay? We may talk about that a little bit. But anyway, also what I'm going to talk about is some local media stuff. We got a bunch of local news here in the DC media market. And every month I like to do at least one of these chats that focuses on local media stuff. So we'll be talking about that today. So everybody gather round. Gather round. Oh, yeah, I got this from Lou. Lou Skunt sent me this. Little Lou finally came in the mail. There he is, Little Lou. So we're going to have some fun with Little Lou and Crotchy. I don't think Little Lou talks, right? I don't think his mouth even opens, but he's here now, so he'll be hanging out with Crotchy. So we'll have to devise some interesting little little adventures. Hey, Kat. Hey, Bubba. Hey, Diamond. Hey, Molly. Hey, Judy. Hey, Oshkosh. Hey, Bubba. Hey, Sister Earth. I put up an announcement on my my website channel, so I'm curious to see if we get any media people from my website coming over to watch this chat, because I am going to be talking about some stuff that's pertaining to local media. But if you like radio, if you like cable networks, if you like media stuff, you'll enjoy this chat. So yeah, isn't he cute? He is adorable. He's little. Look how little he is. Little Lou. This is on my, if you're not familiar, this is on my Camo Dave channel. I talk about bottom of YouTube stuff, a lot of nomadic stuff. Anyway, I got to do a shout out to Stickers. His name is Carl, I believe. Nomadic Fanatic Stickers has a really heartbreaking video about having some serious financial troubles today. Check it out if you haven't already done that. That's going to be one of our big stories. Yes, it's really sad. Nomadic Fanatic Stickers there. So anyway, that's stuff I got to talk about too. There's a lot to talk about, but today's video is going to be one of my media stuff. So yeah, hey Flower Child, hey YOLO, everybody. Lots of media stuff going on here. I don't know where you live, and there's pretty much nowhere in the United States of America where you can live where you don't have access to a television station or several that are owned by a company called Sinclair, okay? Sinclair is owned by is a big media company that's based here in it's based in the Baltimore area, Hunt Valley, Maryland. It started out way back in like the 70s. They owned like a couple of two or three TV stations around the country. They've grown. They now are the largest, in terms of number of stations, the largest owner of television stations in America. Okay, they own a whole lot of stations, and many of them are in small and medium-sized markets. So if you live in places like Columbus, Ohio, Reno, Nevada, wherever, little, medium-sized markets like that, chances are several stations on your TV set there, the local stations, the broadcast stations, are owned by Sinclair. They own Fox affiliates, they own NBC affiliates, they own CBS affiliates, so they own other stations. They own a lot of ABC affiliates. So even though it's an ABC station, it's owned by Sinclair, okay? And what Sinclair likes to do is they like to have sidecar companies, okay? So one station will be owned, like you say you live in a market like, a medium market, the ABC station will be owned by Sinclair, and then the CBS station will be owned by a company called Cunningham Broadcasting. Technically, they're not owned by the same company, but what happens is the people that work for Cunningham, the owners of Cunningham, are somehow connected to the owners, the Sinclair people. Okay, so the guy that runs Sinclair, I think his name is David Smith. He has sometimes his relatives, sometimes his friends that will own these sidecar companies, and there are several of them. So what happens is then Sinclair will then sign a contract with Cunningham or some other company to run those stations. So in essence, what happens is Sinclair then operates a bunch of stations, even though they don't own them. So you may live in a smallish media market, and you may have your CBS, your ABC, and maybe one other station are all run by Sinclair, okay? They're running the stations. They don't necessarily own them, but they're running them. So all of a sudden now, the news operation at the CBS station and the news operation at the Fox station and the news operation over at the CW station, they're all the same news operation, the same ad sales operation, the same technical department, the same employees, the same studio space. But they're technically, so that's how Sinclair gets away with running like 3 or 4 stations in a market, even though they don't own them. Now, the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, should be able to see that. It's really easy to see who's owning this company. You know, it's all with the IRS, whoever owns it, and they can see, okay, it's his sister, it's his cousin, it's his best friend, whatever. That's how they've gotten away with it. The FCC, for whatever reason, has allowed them to do that. So now, they have a tremendous number of stations. So now what Sinclair wanted to do was buy Tribune stations, okay? Tribune, it's the Tribune company in Chicago. They've been going through a lot of consternations, and they want to get rid of their TV stations. Well, Tribune stations are in big markets, okay? Mostly Sinclair stations are in medium and small markets, but Tribune stations are in big markets. So there are places like New York City, they own Channel 11 WPIX. Los Angeles, they own Channel 5 KTLA. Here in DC, they own Channel 50 DCW. They own WGN in Chicago, Channel 9. They own some major stations, okay? And Channel 17 WPHL in Philadelphia. Well, a lot of major stations they own. In big markets. So now they were trying to merge with Tribune, and then the Justice Department said no, and now the FCC has kind of questioned it. And apparently, according to the merger agreement, as of yesterday, August the 8th, they now have an out clause, and Tribune has finally said no, we've called a halt to this, we don't want to do it. So that's that. Okay, so the Tribune and Sinclair will not be merging. So you folks in New York, WPIX Channel 11, don't have to worry about Sinclair taking over your station. Okay, anyway, there's a whole big complicated thing. I have really simplified it for you, but that's one of the big stories we're talking about. And the reason I talk about it on my website is because oh yeah, I did have a hissy fit in that. I did a video for this. Oh, that's funny. I got to go watch that. I was starting to do a video I started to do my live stream for this, and I realized I didn't have the microphone plugged in. Okay, so all you saw was this grainy video, and I'm like, oh, I have to plug in a special microphone on this laptop because the inboard microphone doesn't work. So I have to plug in an external camera and microphone. And I was setting it all up and doing it. And then I'm coming on and I'm going, where's my microphone? It's not here. So I had to say end stream. And I'm like, damn it. So maybe I'll leave that up. It's kind of funny. Watch Dave. Watch Dave go crazy. Sinclair was an S place to work. Sinclair go and some other things, and eventually the son decided to get out of the TV business, so he put the station up for sale, and guess who bought it? Sinclair. So that at the time was one of Sinclair's big market stations. They got ABC7, WJLA here in Washington. So they own Sinclair. Now, I mean, Sinclair owns them, right? And they bought this other thing that was with them called News Channel 8, which they've rebranded. And so, yeah. And then they own a bunch of stations. They own one station in Baltimore and then have sidecar arrangements with 2 other stations in Baltimore. So if you look at Washington and Baltimore, they own about 5 signals, okay, including News Channel 8, which is a cable outlet. Almost everybody, or a lot of people that used to work at Channel 7 under Albritton, have left. They've all flown the coop. Okay, we used to have Gordon Peterson, Maureen Bunyan, some really great anchor people, Doug Hill. They all worked over there, and one by one, they've all left, and they pretty much, at least on their on-air news staff, have a fairly new people working there. One of the problems with Sinclair, and one of the things that they tend to be very right-leaning, okay? They were even more right-leaning politically than Fox is. And they do have, like, certain, they'll have, must air things. They have to air certain things. They've done some documentaries. They have some talk shows that tend to lean to the right. I don't have a problem with that because most people think that most broadcast local television leans to the left. And if one wants to lean to the right, so what? But that's not my main beef with them. My main beef is the fact that they're trying to skirt the FCC's ownership rules so that they can own multiple stations in a market. And I don't think that's a good thing, especially in a small market where you don't have a lot of media diversity and you have 2 or 3 stations out of 5 that are all owned by the same company. I just don't think that's a good idea. Land of the Brave. Yeah, they own WGN in Chicago. It's Chicago. Okay, Tribune is a Chicago-based company, okay? Tribune is a Chicago-based company, and they've been kind of getting rid of their media properties. The Tribune company, they have a whole bunch. They used to have a whole bunch of newspapers. The Chicago Tribune. They owned they own the Baltimore Sun. They own the LA Times. They moved all their newspapers over to this company called Tronc. Tronc, which is all lowercase. Tronc. Who do you work for now? Tronc. It sounds like, oh. And Tronc, yeah. And it's something like Tribune Online. I don't know what it stands for. It stands for something like that. Tribune Regional Online, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, and so now the TV stations are still owned by Tribune, okay? And they are some old class, big market stations. WGN Channel 9 Chicago, WPAX 11 in Philly or New York, Channel 17 WPHL in Philly. They own Channel 50 here in DC. They own Channel 5 in LA, KTLA, which has the world's happiest newscast. You ever watch their newscast? They're like joking around and happy, and they got the weather girls with the short skirts and the big bazoombas. What are they? There's some other stations too, quite a few, but those are the main ones I can think of. Ray, I worked for Sinclair for a Fox affiliate in Nashville for 6 months. The only place I've ever worked where they low jacked the equipment to keep employees from stealing. Oh, really? They kicked Alex Jones off more platforms today. Oh, I saw an interesting article in the New York Times. Apparently, Alex Jones' Infowars thing is starting up a new app. Okay, so this is all in conjunction. It's almost like Alex Jones has planned this because he's got a new internet app. You can get it on all this for your phone, whatever. And it's got his live content. It's got other things. I presume you're going to have to start paying for some of it. But he's now been kicked off of YouTube and Facebook and a lot of places. But now you can go and get the Infowars app for your phone. It's free, but I'm sure there are going to be in-app purchases. So it's in a way, how do you boost the sale of that app suddenly? And it's in fact the #1 selling app or the #1 downloaded app on some of the internet platforms like Google Store and stuff. So, it seems like it's all a big theory here to get it all going. Let's get kicked off, free speech kind of thing after all these big platforms, and then we'll take everything to the app and then we'll monetize it. So, I don't know. How do they get away with a sidecar gimmick? Yeah, I don't know. The FCC, I guess, is kind of stupid. You think the FCC would know that technically? Technically they're two different companies, right? You have Sinclair and their board of directors and whatever, and then you have Cunningham or some other company. There's a number of them, and it's like David Smith, who runs Sinclair, his mother or his cousin or his brother or his whatever run these other companies. So technically, yes, as far as the IRS is concerned, if the regulators are concerned, they're separate companies, but they're family related. Some of his friends are on the board of directors of these other companies, and they've all kind of wink, wink, nod, nod, said, you run the state, we'll own the station. Technically, they're separately owned, but you will run the station. Operation, they signed an operational agreement. So even though this other company owns the stations, Sinclair runs them all and manages them all and sells ads on them all and provides news for them all. So you basically have 3 or 4 stations in one market that are all run by, effectively controlled by Sinclair. And according to, technically, with the lawyers at the FCC, they're allowed to do that. It's kind of like, a shell game, but they're doing it right in front of you. And you would think the FCC, technically, that is not in violation of their policies. Bubba Warbucks. Yeah, Bubba's a TV guy right down there in North Carolina. It's BS because the networks have only have allowed 25% national coverage, and Sinclair is 70%. And the other thing Sinclair does is what they call the UHF discount. In the olden days, a UHF signal, channel 14 or above, was seen as being not as good as a VHF signal, channel 2 through 13. So a UHF station only counted as half a station when you figured out the ownership, okay? So if the ownership level was 10, you could have 5 VHF stations, right? And instead of 5 UHFs, you could now have 10 UHFs because and that would fit under the ownership cap of 10 stations because each UHF station is half. So you could have 15 stations, but the FCC's ownership cap was 10 because the UHFs counted as half a station. Well, the digital crankover turnover happened in 2009, right? And all the stations went digital, and most of the stations that were on VHF got moved over to UHF anyway. So almost all of television today, no matter whether you're watching channel 4 or 9 or 10 or 2, almost all of them now are over on UHF. And your television just says it's channel 2. You're watching channel 4. Here in Washington, channel 4, you think you're watching channel 4. It's not really coming in on channel 4. It's on like channel 48, okay, or channel 37 or 28, okay? So the difference between VHF and UHF doesn't mean anything anymore because almost all the digital television stations are over on the UHF band. But yet that rule was there, and then they got rid of it, and now they're trying to reinstate it. And it's only a way, the only reason it's there is so somebody can own over the ownership cap, particularly Sinclair. It's just it's crazy. The rule is outdated. It doesn't even apply anymore. It has no bearing in reality. It should have been scrapped because there's no difference now between UHF and VHF. It's all the same thing. So anyway, I can see this. You can see this, but the big hunters at the FCC, can they see this? I don't know. At least Tribune realized, hey, this deal with Sinclair isn't a good idea, so they've backed out. They pulled the plug on it. So it is a racket. It is a racket very much, Cat. Is Sidecar like ordering a la carte? It is in a sense where everything's coming from the same. It's like you're saying, I'm going to go order pizza from Pizza Hut and I'm going to order a Big Mac from McDonald's, and it's all the same company, okay? Both companies are co-owned. Now, that's true in a lot of, they already have that, it is like Burger King and I don't know. Some of these companies are all co-owned, but it's kind of like, pretending to, yeah. Do you really want that in even a major market? Power. There's 5 or 6 stations in the Washington market that are powerful, that are watched. The CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox, maybe the CW, the My Network TV. That's it. Those are the stations. There's 4, 5, 6 stations that get about 95, 98% of the viewers. That's it. That's all that really matters. There are other stations that are just not, they don't count. They're Spanish. They have ethnic programming. They have religious programming. They're low power. They have, public television, which doesn't really count in the commercial world. So you have 5 or 6 major commercial stations that get about 95% of the audience. And of those stations, 3 of them are owned by the same company. That's not the case here in Washington yet, but that's how it is in a lot of markets. And so you got the 3 or 4 most powerful stations in a market are all owned by one company. And that's the way that this company Sinclair has allowed to let things happen. They're kind of brilliant in a way that they've, got attorneys and lawyers and all that other stuff and figured this all out. And they've gone, it's like a big company that goes through the IRS regulations line by line so they can, write off this and that and this and that, the technicality of it. They've gone through and it's kind of sad that it's happened. They've kind of gone against the way the rules were intended to be. And the FCC, because the way the rules are written, that's the way they did it. So anyway, the deal between at least getting Sinclair bigger now by merging with Tribune, which would have allowed Sinclair into a lot of big markets like LA and New York, that ain't going to happen, at least so far. A&A RV Travels. Anyway, today is we're doing a little thing here today for my DCRTV.com website. I'm going to do it once a month, a little chitty chat here going on regarding media stuff. So anyway, so that's the big news. That was one of the big news today. My good buddy, I have a good friend here in Baltimore. His name is Kirk McEwen. His brother is Mark McEwen. Mark, for many years, did the weather. I think he did the morning weather on CBS on the morning show. Remember Mark McEwen? Then he went down to, I think, Orlando and worked there for a while, and he's had some health challenges. But anyway, Kirk is a long-time DC and Baltimore radio guy. He's been here in the market for a long time. He's been over on 98 Rock in Baltimore. He used to be on there was a rock station here on 105.9 for many years. He's been all over the dial. Kirk now works doing afternoons at 98 Rock in Baltimore. WIYY is a really cool cat, and he's also going to be doing a lot of Ravens coverage. WIYY 98. It's 97.9, but they call it 98 Rock, and their sister station, 1090 WBAL AM News Talker, they're got the Ravens on. They're the main flagship stations for the Ravens this year. So Kirk is going to be doing some Ravens pregame shows and also some in-stadium coverage stuff. So it's going to be cool for him to see that. So that's some of the news. Here, hold on a sec. Let's see here. Let me see who's here. Totally Kathy's here. I listened to Kirk and Marion on the radio. Oh yeah, right. He's partnered with Marion, right? I guess they're trying to get some female demos onto the show there. But Kirk's a cool guy. He's been on rock radio for years and years. He used to do the KML, Kirk Mark. What was it called? The KML morning show on 98 Rock there for many years. Mark Ondako, Mike Ondako, Mark Ondako is Kirk Mark, and yeah, whatever. They had a cool radio show there. He's been on Baltimore radio for years and years and years and years and decades and centuries and whatever. So anyway, the radio ratings Washington market, WTOP was again first. But the surprise was Magic 102.3, which is also on, what is their other signal? They're on 92.7 there in Southern Maryland. It's an Urban One station. They've got adult urban contemporary. Donnie Simpson's on there. A whole bunch of other cool people are on there. They're now the number 2 station in the market, which is the highest I've ever seen them. Number 3 is American University News Talker, WAMU, which is a really, they see them in third is low for them. WHUR from Howard University is 4th. WBig Classic Hits is number 5. Big high raise for Mix 107.3. WRQX. They're up to 6th. They used to be really low. Hot 99.5 is 7th. KYS Urban Contemporary is 8th. WGTS Christian Contemporary is 9th. And they're tied with WASH. WASH Adult Contemporary. So those are the radio ratings for Washington. Interesting, iHeart owns 5 radio stations here in the Washington market, and they're all in trouble. All of iHeart's 5 stations are in trouble. Wash is in trouble because it should be getting a lot higher ratings than tied for 9th. Hot 99.5 is in trouble because it should be beating the pants off of Mix 107.3 with their contemporary hits format. DC 101, our longtime rocker here, it's an alt rocker. They're 17th. 17th. WMZQ, the country station they run. What is it? Oh, I'm coughing here. Where are they? I don't know. They're not doing real well either. Oh, they're 16th. So anyway, oh man, I got breathed some pollen in out there. It was on when I appeared in USA Today. They saw the article. Really? No kidding. You know what? I vaguely remember that. I used to listen to Don and Mike all the time. I used to have a feud going with Don Geronimo. You know, he and I were back about 2006, 7, 8. We were feuding a lot. And I liked the guy, but, you know, he did not like the comments in my mailbag, and a lot of people were very critical of him. And so he was feuding with me a lot on the air and mentioning my website a lot. It was good for me because my site was growing leaps and bounds, and I was making some good money on it. But I do remember that. He used to read the paper, and then they would find some weird story out in the Midwest or something, and then they would call up the people and talk about it. Yeah, very interesting. They were also mean. They also had a very he could really, you know, make fun of people, and he did that with me a lot. But wow. Well, now, why did they call you? What was the reason? What were you doing that made them curious? Richard Simmons and I got my town on a. Oh, okay. Richard Simmons and you and Richard Simmons got your town on a diet, and you did an infomercial. Oh, they used to make. Yeah, Richard Simmons was one of their top targets. Oh yeah, yeah. Whatever happened to Richard Simmons? Remember Jordy the Lion? Their days with Jordy the Lion. He was out in L.A. and he was camped outside of Richard Simmons' big mansion. Richard Simmons went into seclusion a couple of years ago. He used to be all over the place, and now no one mentions him at all. I don't know, man. I don't know. Well, that's fascinating, Kathy. Holy cow. You know, I do vaguely remember that, but I never knew it was you. I never know I'd run into you later. That's really weird. Happy anniversary, Dave. Yes, can you imagine? I've been doing this website for almost 21 years. I started DCR TV. It's a news media website that covers Baltimore and Washington. I started it in September of 1997. So last September was our 20th anniversary. And oh, you know what? I do have some stickers. Let me get them here. I'm not prepared here. I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared. There we go. There's a sticker. Fit 20 years for last summer. The Time Chaser down there in Florida made these for me. They're really nice. If you want one, you know, hey, you know, I'll put the address in there. Make a little donation, at least a $5 donation. Okay, I'm asking $20 donations to raise some money for my website, you know. But if you want to make a $5 donation, I'll be happy to send you one of these stickers or a couple of them if you want. I don't know what you're going to do with them, but yeah, we're 21st anniversary this year, but still got a pile of these. And yeah, if you like the website. Oh my goodness. So anyway, let's talk about Baltimore really quick, okay? So we throw them in there. The top stations in Baltimore are WWIN 95.9, which is adult urban contemporary. WERQ, the other big rapper in Baltimore, is second. POC Country is third. WQSR, which is a great station that I like to listen to down here in Northern Virginia, 102.7. That's Jack. We play whatever we want. It's mainly classic hits. They're fourth. Mix 106.5 is 5th. WLIF Hot Adult Contemporary is 6th. WZFT Z104, it's a contemporary hit station, is 7th. WZBA, a classic rocker, is 8th. It's a good station, although the signal doesn't make it down in Northern Virginia anymore. 9th is WIYY, that's Kirk McEwen's station, 98 Rock. And 10th is WJZFM, Sports Talk at 105.7. Oh, yeah. All right, so today we're talking DC media stuff. Dave, almost every day. I want to talk about some DC media stuff. So yeah, that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing today. We're talking about some other media stuff too. If you want to talk about YouTube, we want to talk about Alex Jones. Got some Alex Jones there. Apparently he is going offline. However, he's got an app out. You knew there was something going on with him. He's got his app out now. And guess what? The only place you can hear him is on the app. Or I guess on his website. So that it's shot up to like the #1 app in downloads. So Alex Jones is, this was all planned. Let's put some videos out on YouTube that's going to get struck. And everyone's going to scream bloody murder about how my freedom of speech has been silenced. And now, hey, the same time, here's the app. Ding, 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 ding. These guys are smart, All this stuff is smart. It's smart. They're not just stumbling into this and, oh, gee, what a surprise. YouTube has blocked our channel. They're actually asking for that. They're hoping it happens so that they can get the app out there. Really. So, and the app may be free, but there's going to be in-app purchases and stuff like that. So it's all about the money. And poor old Alex Jones, he's got a couple of defamation suits against him, and his lawyer bill is probably pretty high. So he's got to pay the lawyers. So I got to crank up some money. How am I going to do that? I'm not making much money on YouTube. Okay, the app. The old farmer's wife came to visit me at my house yesterday. Oh my goodness, Tony Catley. Oh my goodness. Dave's even more hyper. I just went to Chipotle. And I get their tea, and I do get a little hyper after drinking it, but I need to sit back, read the comments. A cynic might think Alex Jones reported himself. I think that it's all a strategy. It's nice to have our stuff out on YouTube. It's nice to have our stuff on Facebook. A lot of people are seeing it, but we're not making the money we need to make. The app is what we're going to make some money on. We need to get the app jacked up and on your every phone or everybody's conspiracy theorist phone. They got to get the app on the phone, and then the app will be our ticket. Even though the app is probably free, there's ways, you want to order things on the app. You want to listen to certain podcasts. You want to listen to this. There'll be prices for it. Register your credit card, and then the money comes in. So they're thinking that. They are. You cut her hair. You probably had the app as a backup, yeah. Richard Simmons. Has anyone seen Richard Simmons? The guy's just kind of disappeared, right? There was a rumor that his housekeeper was holding him hostage or something. I don't know. Anyway, the other big news here in the DC market, I got to mention this because I am talking DC market stuff today, is that there's big changes at one of our sports talkers. DC has 2 sports talk stations. One is called 106.7 The Fan. They're owned by CBS, which is now a company called Entercom. They bought all the CBS stations. They're the major one. Okay, they're FM signal. They got Chad Dukes in the afternoon. They got the Junkies in the morning. They get good ratings. Yeah, the other station was owned by the Redskins owner, Dan Snyder. He owned a station called ESPN 980 or Sports Talk. What was it? The team 980, the WTEM, and he is getting out of the radio business. Okay, Dan Snyder, Redskins owner, thought if he owned the station, he'd have the team on the station, and everything would be great. And it turns out that the stations were a very bad investment. It's mainly an AM signal with some FM side cars, so to speak, rim shots out in the suburbs, and the stations have not been a good investment for him, although Dan Snyder is very wealthy and he probably, writes it off his taxes anyway. So he wanted to get out of the radio business. He sold off the FM signals last year, One became one of Magic Signals. The other one went to K-Love and became Christian Contemporary. So now K-Love has a little a little step into the Washington market. And the AM Signal 980, which once was a great station, it once was the old WRC News Radio. Now it's kind of, no one's listening to AM anymore. So we sold that off to a company called Urban One, which used to be called Radio One, which is a major African American owned media company. Okay, they own a couple cable networks. They syndicate a lot of radio shows. They own a lot of stations. Okay, they own a bunch here in Washington. They own some stations in Philly. They own some stations in Atlanta. They own stations in Houston. They used to own a station in LA. They sold it. They own stations all over, but especially through the South in the major African American markets, they own a lot of stations, and they're mainly urban, contemporary rapish stations. They own adult urban stations with a lot of soul music. They own some gospel stations, and now they're getting more and more into talk stations. So they bought this sports talker, and they've pretty much going to keep the sports talk format, but they're getting rid of everybody at the station. So the news was that we broke that the guys that were doing the morning show, Chris Cooley and Rick Doc Walker, and a bunch of other people were losing their shows on 980 WTEM. They will continue with Redskins Radio, and the Redskins will continue to be heard on WTEM. But there's a bunch of people coming and going from that station. So anyway, if anybody wants to chat about that, I listen to NPR in the car. So do I. I listen to NPR in the car all the time. I like NPR. I really do. They have some very good shows on there. They get very good ratings here in Washington. They're always in the top 5, 88.5 WAMU. They got some good talk shows on there. I don't honestly think they lean that far to the left. They do a very good job of trying to be down the middle on a lot of things. They don't go for the crazy screaming and yelling that you hear on some of the right-wing talkers. It's very low-key, but they do a very balanced job. I like them. I think NPR does a nice job. They do a lot of good shows on there. Craig listens to WNBC. One of the things about Washington, the DC radio market, is we gave Howard Stern his big start. Howard Stern started working at a bunch of little stations. He was up there in Connecticut, and I think he went to Detroit. Eventually, he came to Washington, DC 101, which is still around, WWDC, rock station 101.1, and he did the morning show. And they had a news lady working there named Robin Quivers from Baltimore. And they got together, and they started to realize, hey, we like each other, right? Howard Stern started he's where he really started the shock jock kind of edgy talk. That was at DC 101 during the morning show. He almost got fired a couple times. They thought he was way too over the edge. There was the Air Florida plane crash that hit the 14th Street Bridge, and then next day he called Air Florida up for tickets to the 14th Street Bridge, and he got suspended several times. He would get into a lot of race talk and stuff like that. And eventually, I don't know when this was, 1982 or 3, he got fired. And what did he do? He went back. He went up to New York. He was a New York native, Long Island, and he got a job at WNBC, which at the time I think was 660 AM. It was an adult contemporary station. They had Don Imus on, and they put him on there. And Don and him hated each other and never liked each other. And he did that for a couple of years, and eventually he got bounced from that, and he went up over to FM and went on 92.3 in New York, which was then K-Rock, WXRK. It's got a whole different identity today. And that's the story. And then he started syndicating his show all over the country, and he started to be on in Philly, and he came back to Washington on WJFK. And then he was all over the country there until about 2006 when he signed the deal with Sirius XM and then went off the radio and went with them. There you have it. Howard Stern. Oh, yeah. And when he was on regular radio, he was just constantly getting fined by the FCC. Just constantly. It was always the stations were suspending him or the stations were dropping his show. They were getting fines. So anyway, they hated each other like Blind Views and Dave. I don't hate Blind Views. Good Lord, I like Larry. He's a cool cat. I like Larry. He's a nice guy. I have no problem with him. I've been 70 up in New York there for a number of years doing the morning show, and eventually I think they tried to syndicate it down here, and nobody wanted to hear it. So poor Don finally said goodbye. So I think he's off the radio now. I think he's in retirement land. I don't know, Maine UPTDC. We're still waiting to hear. We're still waiting to hear. Of what's going to happen at Galdi announced on WTAM that he'd be hosting their Redskins post-game show with Clinton Portis this season, replacing Scott Jackson. So that's what we're hearing. So Al Galdi is probably going to be, so it's apparently down to Al Galdi, Kevin Sheehan, Brian Mitchell, Steve Zabin, who also does a syndicated show, and Scott Lynn in terms of the talent. So people like Chris Cooley and Rick Doc Walker are gone. So it looks like Al Galdi, Kevin Sheehan, Brian Mitchell, Steve Zabin, and Scott Lynn are going to be the main people that you're going to be hearing on WTEM into the future under their new ownership. So that's what it looks like. My mailbagger, who is probably very well connected, thinks Al Galdi's going to be hosting the morning show, that attracting hardcore sports fans who don't like the junkies who tend to talk about gambling and girls and whatever else over on 106.7. So I don't know. Steve Zabin there will be in the afternoon, and maybe Sheehan and Mitchell 10 to 2 middays. So that's kind of what it's looking like now. What do you think of that? Suspenders Larry. Howard and Dave, my favorites. Oh, I've never met Howard Stern. I've never talked to him. I'm pretty sure he's seen my website because we did report a lot about Howard Stern on the website. I'm pretty sure he did, but I've never had the pleasure of talking or in any way communicating with Howard Stern. Most everybody in the DC media market, though, I have some sort of a communication relationship with or whatever. I used to know George Michael, not the George Michael from Wham. This George Michael was the guy that did the Sports Machine. Remember him? He did a nationally syndicated Sunday night the Sports Machine with George Michael. George Michael started out as a disc jockey on a top 40 station in Philly, the old WFIL famous 56. And then he moved up to WABC in New York, which was also a top 40 station. And then they let him do the weekend sports over there at Channel 7, which was co-owned at the time, also WABC television. And then he did that. And then down in Washington, he a big kahuna retired or whatever, and he came down to Washington and got the main sports anchor job at Channel 4 WRC. When was this? Somewhere in the 80s. And for 25 years, he was like one of the big sports guys here on Washington television, George Michael. And he did the Sports Machine, and he did the syndication stuff. And I was always reporting rumors about him. And yeah. And then I remember there was one rumor that came out that said he was going to quit Channel 4 because Channel 4 was owned by, they owned by NBC and all this stuff, and they had to make a whole bunch of cuts, and he didn't want to make the cuts, so he was just going to quit because he didn't want to have to cut all his friends. And he called me up. I swear, Christmas morning. I'm at home. Christmas morning, the phone rings at 7 a.m. It's George Michael on the phone yelling at me. My story was about 95% right, okay? But he was yelling at me for, you got this wrong. You got that wrong in the story. Fix it. I'm saying, George, it's Christmas morning. You're sitting there reading my website. Larry Lujak. I remember listening to him. He was in Chicago, right? I forget. I don't know. I used to listen to WCFL 1000, the big 1000, WLS 890. Yeah, and I remember Larry Lujak. He was a great guy. Great voice. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Cooley and Walker played for the Deadskins. Chris Cooley. Yeah. He's a very good-looking guy. Yeah, and I think he did a very nice radio show too. I thought he was quite good. I don't know. He's still going to be doing. You're still going to hear him. He's now working for Redskins Radio. Redskins Radio is still owned by Dan Snyder. He's the owner of the Redskins. They're the company that produces the game coverage. Okay, the radio coverage. They have 20, 30 different stations: Richmond, Virginia, Eastern Shore, Central Pennsylvania, West Virginia. Stations, I think, down into North Carolina. They're on the Redskins radio network. Lynchburg, Roanoke, Richmond, Norfolk, that's all Redskins territory. And they produce the radio games, okay? And Chris Cooley works for Redskins radio now. Dan Snyder used to own 980. He doesn't own it anymore, so now Chris Cooley is not going to be on 980 anymore. But he'll still be heard because the Redskins radio will carry the games, okay? And the Redskins radio game, that no one listens to on 630. So you'll be able to hear them. And 105.9 is their big kahuna signal because it's FM and it gets all the way down into Central Virginia. So that's what's going on there. Oh, yeah. So anyway, this is my Thursday, Dave, almost every day. WLS. Do you know what WLS stood for? All these call letters. WLS. It was originally owned by Sears, and it stands for the world's largest store. WGN in Chicago. Do you know what that stands for? The world's greatest newspaper. It was owned by the Tribune. It's still owned by the Tribune Company. WGN. There you go. I love call letter lore like that. I love that. I love that. We have WRC Television here in Washington. It's called that because it was owned by RCA at one time. RCA owned NBC, and they had WRCA in New York for a while, which became WNBC, and I guess they just shortened it to WRC down here in Washington. But it's still called that. Oh, radio, not digital. You do have digital radio in the United States of America. It's something called HD radio. Go to Best Buy. Go to your Best Buy and ask one of the bozos, I want to buy an HD radio. And he'll look at you like, what the F is that? And he'll ask somebody, and he'll ask somebody else, and he'll ask somebody else. And eventually somebody at the store will know, oh, yeah, an HD radio. It's digital, right? And they'll go in the back and they'll find a little digital radio for you for 40 or 50 bucks. And there you go. Now, the HD radio in America, probably the biggest place you can get it is in new cars. A lot of your new cars now, if you notice, they'll have AM, FM, and then they'll have digital, okay? And what that is stations on the side of their frequencies, okay? If you have 101.1, they have side bands, and the side bands are digital. Okay, and if you're carefully screwing around listening to stations on your radio, you'll hear on the left and right, if you go to 101.0 or 101.2, if your radio lets you do that, you'll hear that is digital, okay? Digital sidebands. And if you're listening on an HD radio, you will get a couple extra channels, okay? There'll be DC 101, 101.1, and there'll be 101.1-2 and 101.1-3. And there'll be some other stations. They may have a classic rock on there. They may have a talk station. They may be running a religious station. They have Korean, whatever. You will get extra signals. That's what digital radio in America is. The problem is you can't bounce the signal up real high because those digital hash things will cut into the analog signal in the middle and it messes it up. So the digital signals have to be very low power. And that means you can't hear them very far from the transmitter. And it's a mess. It's a giant mess. It's all confusing. Nobody understands it. What is an HD radio? What the heck does that stand for? High def radio. It isn't high def. It's actually very low def because the digital signals are all compressed and messed up. In Europe, what they do is they have a special band somewhere in the 200 megahertz range. That's just a digital band. And then everybody moves there, and that's where all your digital signals are, and they don't interfere with each other, and it can broadcast in high power. And then eventually the analog signals will all get shut down like they're doing in Ireland and Norway, and everyone will listen to digital, and it'll all be wonderful. That's the way you do it. The way that Europeans are doing it Thanks to another smart thing from the Federal Communications Commission. I can get 104.7 DC 101's HD2 on my FM dial. Yeah, the other thing they do with the digital signals is they feed the low power signals. Okay, DC 101 has a 104.7 signal. I think it's based out of Bethesda. It was called Pride Radio for a while. It was playing disco for a while. I don't know what it's playing now, but they have to feed those low power signals with something that's broadcast on the air. That's another FCC regulation. So yeah, that's what they're doing there. And they're using one of DC 101 sub-channels and putting it on 104.1. There's also in Baltimore, right, there used to be a rock station in Washington called WHFS, and it got pulled off the air in 2005 to become a Spanish station, and it's been in several different incarnations. It moved up to Baltimore, and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, you can still hear it on 104.9, low-power FM signal that's being fed by, I forget who's feeding that. Is it 106.5? It's one of their sub-channels that's feeding that. But technically, the FCC says that those low-power FM signals have to be fed by a broadcast signal, whether it's a regular standard signal, whether it's an AMer, which you don't want to do because the signal would be crappy, but you feed it from one of those digital sub-channels. The radio stations are digital. Yeah, when digital, there's no more AM and FM. Everything is the same. Okay, there's everything is all AM, and that's a problem now because there's a lot of AM stations, that are not doing so well because it's AM band is scratchy and you hear thunderstorms and there's a lot of interference on it. It's better to be on FM by far, but when you do digital, right, everything when it goes to complete, real quality digital, everything will be one equal, okay? So you won't have AM versus FM anymore. It'll all be one thing. And the United States we're not doing that. I mean, yeah, we have AM stations that are now being relayed on FM like a sub-channel and then being pumped out on you have that in a lot of markets now. Baltimore has that now. They have WBAL 1090 AM. Their ratings haven't been that good, so now they've got an FM signal. It's a low-power signal that maybe covers 10 miles that they're feeding from a sub-channel somewhere off of 98 Rock. So they technically do have an FM signal, but it's not a big blasting FM signal that's going to cover the whole market, And a lot of AMers are doing that now in a lot of places. You'll be listening to an AM station and they have an FM signal. Anyway, there are more FM translator stations than there are in local. Yeah, and the other problem with those little wimpy little those FM translators is they're blocking out a lot of your out-of-market signals. Here in the DC area, we used to be able to hear a good amount of the Baltimore FM signals, and now a lot of them are getting squashed. I used to like to listen to classic rock WZBA The Bay at 100.7. I mean, this signal would come down into the DC area, but now there's a station in Falls Church, Virginia, a religious station that's on AM that's now using 100.7 for a low-power signal. So now I just hear preachers on 100.7. I can't hear WZBA anymore, which is I like that station. It's pretty cool. So anyway, if you want one of my, if you like my website, go to dcrtv.com. You can also get a link to it on my fuzzface1z.com page. And there's my sticker that Time Chaser made so generously for me last year. He made it for me last year when it was the 20th anniversary of the site. If you want this wonderful sticker, just send me a self-addressed stamped envelope. If you want to throw a couple bucks in it, I won't argue with you, but I'll put the address below. The address is also on fuzzface1z.com. But anyway, yeah, we're pushing an hour here. Just wanted to say hi to everybody. Yeah, and I'm going to put the replay of this up on my website. I think most people are going to probably watch the replay of this because I do not see a lot of folks from the website over here today. Most of you folks are my normal viewers from the old Camo Dave channel next door. Yeah, we got Little Lou. Little Lou arrived yesterday. It was funny. JJ, the Illuminator up in Rhode Island, was supposed to send Little Lou down here, right? And all of it just didn't come. It was supposed to be here Saturday, and it was supposed to be here Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and it just didn't come. Little Lou got lost in the mail. So JJ sent me the tracking code, and I went to the post office and said, "Hey, this was supposed to have arrived Saturday." And they did the tracking code, and they went back in the back room of the post office there in Springfield, and it took them about 45 minutes, and they came out with a box, and they said, "Well, we found this," and they found Little Lou. So he was hiding out in the back of the post office there. So we finally got Little Lou, and on the back, look at it, where I'm supposed to sign Little Lou when I pass him on, whenever that is. We got JJ signed there. We got Stingray, and we got Blind Views. So Little Lou has been to 3 different places, and now I'm the 4th. So I'll have to put Camo Dave or CD or something on the back before I send Lou to his next appointed destination. But I get to keep him for a little while. Yeah, Little Lou always gets lost in the mail. That's right. That's what Big Lou was telling me. When they sent him to Stingray, he got lost in the mail. Then they sent him to Blind Views in Harrisburg. The Stingray's in Richmond. The Blind Views in Harrisburg. He gets lost in the mail every single time. He's a devilish little critter. Oh, and he's got Velcro eyes, so I can replace his little eyes with, there's like big eyes and little eyes. So, you know, different eyes there for Little Lou. But he doesn't talk, but, you know, I'm not going to give him a voice. He's just going to kind of, ooh. He was in the toxic mail pile. Anyway, so I just wanted to do a video this week or this month. Once a month, I want to do a video where I talk about some of the media stuff, especially radio, TV stuff, some local stuff from my website. And yeah, so that's what I'm doing today. Interesting news today on YouTube, though. I'm going to have to maybe do something about this pretty soon, about Nomadic Fanatic stickers and his heartbreaking look into that now. I want more information. Nomadic Fanatic stickers news. NF stickers. Yeah, check him out if you haven't subscribed to him. He's, you know, one of those guys that used to do a lot of the parodies. He still does some parodies, but he used to do primarily Nomadic Fanatic stickers parodies. I mean, Nomadic Fanatic parodies. Then he's been doing parodies of everybody else. He did a Lou parody the other day. Yeah, he did a Mark Van Jones. Oh my goodness. He's really going to the bottom of YouTube, isn't he? A bumper sticker on his forehead. You have to be a little one. I don't know, Bubba. I don't know. I thought his wife had a job. He hasn't really been working. He does kind of YouTube full time. I always thought, you know, his wife worked. I don't know, you know. I can get a new RV if I don't pay for it. Well, here's what you do: is you buy an RV, you get a loan for it, and you pay it monthly, and then you stop paying it, and then you go drive the RV off, and so that the repo man can't find it. And what are they going to do? You know, I mean, you're in an RV. How are they going to repo it? Because there's no address, right? You might have an address where it's registered, but it's never parked there. So how's the repo man ever going to find your RV and take it away? Yeah, you're going to get nasty letters. You might get a lawsuit against you from the loan company, but you got the RV, and how are they ever going to get it back, right? I mean, if you wanted to do that, your credit will go to shit, but what's my address? Old Socks. My address is on my, I'll post it below, and it's also on fuzzface.com. In fact, I post my address almost on every video. I don't want your if the old socks are nice and they don't have holes in them, I can always put them in the wash with the Tandil. I can use old, I like big old, big socks. Sure, why not? I'll take them, Randy. I don't know, Bubba. Yeah, I guess they have something called bankruptcy over there in England. I mean, if you have creditors coming at you and coming up to your house wanting your stuff to pay the bills, I mean, there's a thing called bankruptcy. You file that, the creditors go away, and then you handle everything by a court, and they usually let you keep a good chunk of your stuff. So there's a way of doing that. I know England has that, I don't know. That's certainly a protection thing, so somebody's not banging on your door taking your stuff. You know, I don't know. All that court stuff gets stopped, and then and then it's all done sanely, and you have a couple months to catch your breath and figure it out. What's my free lunch link? PayPal.me/DCRTV. If you want to buy me lunch, just send a PayPal to PayPal.me/DCRTV. We got the super chat going today. No one's made any super chat donations, that's okay. I guess Denise the Wandering Artist isn't watching. Oh, I need that. I need somebody out there who's going to be my benefactor. I need somebody to say, Dave, I love your channel. How much money do you need? How many thousands of dollars do you need? I hope so. I hope it's not true, Bubba. I don't know. I don't know the whole situation, how bad it's gotten into with I think his name is Carl, right? Carl, the name I've always associated with stickers has been a guy named Carl. I know his last name, but I'm not going to give that out. But I hope everything's cool with him because he is a cool cat. He does some wonderful stuff on YouTube, all of his crazy various channels. Oh, right, those Aussie dollars, those Warbucks. I was going through I was sorting through the old mail messages, regular mail I got. I have a big pile of those that were out in the car the other day, and I'm kind of weeding them out, sorting them out, and I found all those old Warbucks you sent me, Bubba. Those are cool. I had to go into Chipotle tomorrow and pay with some Warbucks, see if they'll take them. Oh, Sunny girl. I'm sorry, Sunny. I'm sorry. The first face I saw was Cruddy Kevin. Well, it was a slow morning, okay? I get that every now and then. I have a morning like, what am I going to talk about this morning? Kevin, I'm sorry, Sunny. I'll try tomorrow to, we're going to put Kevin in the background. I want some more Living Free Mikey. I don't know. He said he was going to post every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and there was no video from him today, so I don't know. Maybe it's up now. I haven't checked. But if those are my go-to guys: Kevin, Mikey, Living Free, Nomadic Fanatic, Eric. Those are my go-to guys every morning, and they usually deliver me enough, somewhat, something to go on every day. I need to branch out more. I need to do that. You don't need, you're right. See, you don't have to watch Nomadic Fanatic anymore because there's Dave. He tells you what happens in every show. You don't have to watch Kevin anymore because I tell you what he does. All those cute little dogs. You don't have to sit and watch those big, 8-minute chunks of the dogs running around. Oh, Mikey did post today. Okay, Craig, I will check it out. All right, folks, I want to thank you all for being here. Keep this an hour. Dave TV. Go over to my DCR TV channel. My DCRTV.com website. Go to my channel. Whatever happened to Evie? You don't see much Evie these days, huh? My channel. Anyway, maybe she's wrapped up in the whole Putin thing. I don't know. I hope not. But anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. I did talk about some DCR TV local media stuff today, so if you're watching the replay, I appreciate it. So that should do it for today. Thanks for watching, and vlog, or rather stream, Silencio!